But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. Let me tell you about my great God.
Hey guys, Pastor Tim here. Hope you're ready to start your day off in God's Word. We're in 1 Kings chapter 2. We now have reached the end of David's life. He gives his parting words to Solomon, then he passes away. And now we start Solomon's reign. And we see in this chapter that, first of all, Solomon has to start by cleaning house. All right, if you want to start anew, sometimes you got to realize there's some things you got to get rid of, things that are weighing you down. That's true for many things in life, such as you're going on a diet. Maybe you realize, some friends are holding you back from serving the Lord, and there's things that you realize maybe in those moments that, hey, I need to clear house, I need to get rid of these things, cut them off, whatever it may be, that I may progress forward, that I may make a positive impact and grow and mature in this goal that I have. And Solomon's goal obviously was to be not just act as king of Israel, but be a good king, a successful king. And he knew there were things in the kingdom that he would have to clear house of, all right, or get rid of in order for him to do this. And his father, David, helps him in that fact, say, hey, there's some people that you're going to have to take care of that I did not do in my reign, that I was not able to because of varying circumstances. But if you allow them to continue on, they will be a hindrance, a thorn in your side, in your kingdom. And Solomon realizes, all right, I'm going to have to clear house of that right now. But before we get into that, let's focus on David's last words to Solomon. He's on his deathbed, and he calls Solomon, and he's about to become the official king of Israel. And notice in these first couple verses, I think it's verse 1 through 11, when David's talking to his son, he's emphasizing first and foremost, before he gets to the clearing of the house, before he gets to the people that are going to be a problem to him politically in his reign, he emphasizes the spiritual. He emphasizes the spiritual before the political. And he tells Solomon that, hey, if you want to have success as king, if you want to have success in life, period. And yes, guys, this is my main thing I got out of today's chapter. It's like, if you want to have success, period, you have to make sure that your relationship with God is right first. He emphasizes the importance of obeying God's word. He emphasizes the importance of studying God's word, that you may find success. And the only time success is even mentioned in the Bible is in regards to reading and keeping God's commandments. So he's emphasizing the spiritual aspect first. Hey, you got to have a heart that is set on following God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and then you will have good success as a king. All right, it's not just about your political maneuvers. It's not just about who you allow to be your advisor. It's not just about who you allow to have influence in your life. It's first and foremost going to be about you and God and how you relate to him. And are you seeking him? And are you growing in your relationship with him? Are you obeying him? And that's very much the same thing for us as well. You guys, much like myself, we're not going to be king of Israel, but if you want to have good success in any area of life, whether that be at school, in your job, or your marriage, or your relationships, God has to come first. The spiritual must come first. And notice I said he emphasized the spiritual before the political. And we live in a time right now, guys, where there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of unrest because of this upcoming election season, because of things that are just happening in the world. And guys, yes, it's very important that we exercise our rights as citizens of this country, all right, and elect good leaders that want to honor God. Yes, that's very important, but do not neglect, guys, all right, in the middle of your Facebook posts and your social media outcries and such, do not forget, first and foremost, your responsibility as a citizen of heaven, all right? You will make a far greater impact living for God, following him, obeying him on your community around you, than just simply focusing on debating with people about your political outlooks, about your political stance on this or that issue. Don't forget, first and foremost, your primary responsibility as a citizen of heaven. Yes, exercise your citizenship that you have here in this country. Exercise your right to vote. But remember, do not neglect the spiritual solely for the political. It does not equate. It is not up to the same level. You'll have a far greater impact focusing on the other. Now for the rest of the chapter, that was my main point. Sorry if I kind of rambled on there for a little bit for that. But on to the rest of the chapter, we get to the part where Solomon clears house. And we meet probably my favorite guy in Solomon's advisory board, his cabinet, so to speak. My favorite guy so far in our whole devotional series, and that's this guy named Benaiah. All right, now Benaiah was a priest, but he eventually becomes the general, or pretty much the Joab to Solomon. That Joab was to David, the general of the host of the armies of Israel. But we see specifically in this chapter, he's a guy that's primarily given the responsibility of taking care of Solomon's enemies, of clearing the house. He's like the hitman, so to speak. He takes care of Adonijah, he takes care of Joab, he takes care of Shimei. All three of those guys that Solomon realizes are going to become the thorn in his side that will not help him rule and be successful in his reign. He takes them out. Now, Abiathar, another guy mentioned in this chapter, he was the priest that turned away from David and tried to join with Adonijah. He was not killed, but he was exiled from service. Now, it's pretty simple to see what happens with all the guys and why they were killed. One that might be confusing, I'll cover here right now, is Adonijah. Why was he executed? And that has to do with what he requested of Solomon. Remember, we mentioned last chapter, Solomon said, hey, if you behave yourself, I'll let you live. But if you cause any problem, if you try to take advantage of me in any way, that's it for you. And that's exactly what Adonijah does. He tries to manipulate Solomon by going to his mom, Bathsheba, and get her to ask Solomon to give him Abishag, David's last wife, to be his wife. Now you may think, well, that's not a big deal, but you got to understand, everything that was David's was given over to Solomon. And in Adonijah, especially in the manipulative way he tried to ask for this thing, going through Solomon's mom, and asking for Abishag, David's last wife, an official wife of David, even though David never knew her, to be his wife, he was overstepping his bounds as Solomon's brother. He was not the king yet. He was asking to have one of the king's wives for himself. All right, it's almost like a power move, so to speak, a very disrespectful thing. And Solomon's like, all right, that's it. I gave you all the mercy you needed. No more chances. And of course, he said, hey, Benaiah, take care of that guy. And that's exactly what Benaiah does. What Benaiah does. All right, and so he clears house so that he can have a successful beginning to his reign as king. But obviously, the main point for me has to do with that, emphasizing the spiritual before the political. Anyway, this is a little longer video, guys, but a lot of stuff's happening in it. I hope you got a lot of stuff you could write down in it as well. So tell somebody about it. Tell your accountability partner. Tell somebody what it is you got out of God's word today. Stay safe. Stay healthy. God bless.